Welcome, dear listeners, to a story that transports us to the final days of the American Civil War, a time when hatred had dug trenches so deep between brothers that it seemed impossible any bridge could cross them again. This is the story of Catherine Morrison, a Southern nurse who had lost everything she loved in the war, and Captain James Sullivan, a Northern soldier who fell wounded in enemy territory. Two people on opposite sides of a brutal conflict, two hearts that war had tried to turn to stone. But sometimes, in the darkest places, in the midst of destruction and suffering, the human heart insists on reminding us what it truly means to be human. This is a story about love in times of war, about forgiveness when hatred seems easier, about finding hope when the entire world is in ruins. And you, who accompanies me in this moment, where are you listening from? Leave your city in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Your presence here feeds these narratives. April 1865. Location: Albemarle County, Virginia. The war was ending, though few wanted to admit it. The South, exhausted and bleeding, still resisted with the stubbornness of those who know they've already lost but can't find a way to surrender with dignity. Catherine Morrison was 26 years old and looked 50. War does that to people, steals youth and leaves in its place a hardness that shouldn't exist in such young faces. Her chestnut hair, always tied in a practical bun, had premature gray threads. Her green eyes, which her fiancé Thomas had once compared to Springfield's, now had the opacity of battle smoke that never completely dissipates. Thomas, he had died 2 years ago at Gettysburg, a musket ball piercing his chest as he charged alongside 1,000 other men who would also never return. Kate kept his last letter in her apron pocket, the words now almost illegible from so much folding and unfolding the paper. She worked at the makeshift hospital in the old Methodist church in town. It wasn't really a church anymore, not after the pews were removed to make room for stretchers, after the whitewashed walls became stained with blood that no amount of soap could completely remove. Dr. Henry Morrison, her father, was the chief physician. A man of firm principles, white hair, and hands that trembled increasingly after 2 years of amputating limbs from boys who screamed for their mothers. "Kate," he called that April afternoon, his voice tired, "I need you to prepare the back room. They're bringing wounded from the skirmish near the river." Kate nodded, drying her hands on her stained apron. She had learned not to ask how many, not to ask how severe. She simply prepared, received, did what she could. War had transformed compassion into mechanics, because feeling too much meant breaking completely. The wounded began arriving at dusk. Confederate soldiers in gray uniforms that were no longer gray but brown with dirt and blood. Boys with empty eyes, men with missing limbs, all carrying the weight of a cause they knew was lost but for which they continued dying. Kate moved among the stretchers with learned efficiency. She bandaged wounds, administered morphine when there was any, whiskey when there wasn't, soft words when there was nothing else to offer. It was then that Colonel Hayes entered, his impeccable uniform contrasting grotesquely with the wounded surrounding him. "Dr. Morrison," he said with an authoritative voice, "I need to speak with you." Outside, Kate saw her father leave, saw the tense conversation through the dirty window. She saw how her father shook his head violently, how the colonel pointed at something in the direction of the barn behind the church. When her father returned, his face was livid. "Kate, I need you to come with me. And I need you to keep an open mind about what I'm going to ask of you." They walked to the barn in the heavy silence of dusk. Colonel Hayes waited for them at the door, 2 Confederate soldiers standing guard beside him. "Doctor," Hayes said with a hard voice, "this man is a prisoner of war. He's a Union officer. He's gravely wounded. Our resources are limited, but the laws of war demand that we treat prisoners with basic humanity." He paused, his eyes fixed on Dr. Morrison. "You will treat him, but no one can know we have a Yankee here. The population is at its limit. If they discover we're using scarce medicines on an enemy while our own men are dying." He left the sentence unfinished, but the implicit threat was clear. Inside the barn, on hay that smelled of mold and blood, lay Captain James Sullivan. Kate saw him and her breath caught. He was young, perhaps 29 or 30, with dark hair matted with blood and sweat. His Union uniform was torn and soaked in blood from a wound in his side that still oozed despite the makeshift bandage someone had applied. His face was pale as candle wax, his breathing shallow and labored. But what caught Kate's attention most were his eyes. Even in delirium, even half-conscious, his eyes were an intense blue that seemed to carry the entire sky within them. "The bullet is still inside," her father said, kneeling beside the wounded man. "It needs to come out or infection will kill him in days." Kate felt something twist in her stomach. This was the enemy, a Yankee. One of those who had killed Thomas, who had burned Southern farms, who had brought destruction and death to everything she loved. And yet, looking at him lying there, bleeding and helpless, all she could see was a man suffering. "Kate," her father's voice brought her back. "I need your help. I can't do this alone." She nodded slowly, setting down her bag of supplies. "What do you need me to do?" The surgery, if it could be called that, lasted 3 hours. 3 hours of holding the man down when he thrashed in pain, of cleaning blood that seemed endless, of her father's hands searching for the bullet lodged dangerously close to vital organs. The captain screamed when consciousness returned in waves. He screamed in English words Kate recognized and others she didn't. He called for someone named Michael, begged for water, cried like a child. And Kate, despite everything, despite the hate she thought she carried, found herself whispering words of comfort. "Shh, you're safe. We're helping you. Just hold on." When her father finally extracted the bullet, a deformed piece of metal that had caused so much damage, Kate felt an inexplicable relief. "He'll survive," her father said, exhausted, washing his bloodied hands in a bucket of water. "If infection doesn't set in, if his body is strong enough." He looked at his daughter seriously. "Kate, I need you to care for him. Come twice a day, change bandages, give him water, food when he can eat. No one can know, not even your sister." "Father, I know what I'm asking. I know what you lost. But he's a human being, Kate, and we're still doctors, still bound by oaths that transcend this damned war." Kate looked at the unconscious man, his breathing now a bit more stable. She thought of Thomas, of his body somewhere in a mass grave in Pennsylvania. She thought of all the hate she had cultivated, all the rage that had kept her functioning when grief tried to drown her. And then she thought of her father's words. "We're still human, even when the world tries to make us forget it." "I'll do it," she said finally. "I'll take care of him." She didn't know then that this decision would change everything, that the enemy lying in that barn would become something she never imagined possible. That love, that stubborn and inconvenient thing, can bloom even in the most unlikely soil. The war was ending, but Kate's real battle was just beginning. The first days were mechanical. Kate came to the barn at dawn and dusk, before and after her shifts at the church hospital. She changed Captain Sullivan's bandages, cleaned his wound with carbolic acid that made him hiss in pain even in unconsciousness, forced water between his cracked lips. She didn't speak to him beyond necessary instructions. "Drink this. Don't move. Hold still." He drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes lucid enough to look at her with those blue eyes that seemed to see through her, sometimes delirious with fever, calling out names she didn't know. On the third day, he spoke to her directly for the first time. Am I a prisoner?" His voice was hoarse, weak, but there was something in it, dignity maybe, that made Kate pause in her work. "Yes. Will I be executed?" Kate met his gaze. There was no fear in his eyes, just resignation. "No, You're being treated. Your wound is severe. If you survive, you'll be exchanged when possible." He nodded slightly, then closed his eyes again. "Thank you," he whispered. Those 2 words shouldn't have affected her, but they did. On the 5th day, infection set in despite their best efforts. Fever burned through Captain Sullivan's body, turning his skin to fire. He thrashed and screamed, trapped in nightmares that Kate could only imagine. She sat beside him through the worst of it, applying cool cloths to his forehead, holding him down when convulsions racked his body. In his delirium, he spoke of things that haunted him. "Michael, get down. Michael. We have to cross the river. We have to. Mother, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Kate found herself responding, her voice soft in the darkness of the barn. "You're safe. The battle is over. You're safe." Once, in the depth of fever, he opened his eyes and looked directly at her. "Are you an angel?" Despite herself, Kate almost smiled. "No, I'm just a nurse." "Then why? Why do you have a halo?" "It's just the lamp behind me. Sleep now." He reached out, his hand finding hers. "Don't leave. Please don't leave." And Kate, who should have pulled away, who should have maintained the distance between enemy and enemy, found herself squeezing his hand gently. "I'm here. I won't leave." The fever broke on the 7th day. The secret couldn't last forever. It was Sarah who discovered it first. She had come looking for Kate one evening, worried about her sister's increasingly frequent absences, and followed her to the barn. What she saw through the crack in the door made her gasp. Kate, sitting beside a man in a Union uniform, holding his hand, laughing at something he'd said. Laughing. Something Kate hadn't done in 2 years. Sarah burst in, her face a mixture of shock and fury. "Kate, what in God's name are you doing?" Kate stood quickly, her heart hammering. "Sarah, I can explain." "Explain?" "You're consorting with a Yankee. Do you know what they'll do to you if anyone finds out?" "Please, miss." James tried to sit up, grimaced in pain. "Your sister has been kind enough to save my life. Any anger should be directed at me, not her." "Save your life? You're one of them. One of the monsters who killed our men, burned our homes." "Sarah." Kate's voice was sharp. "He's not a monster. He's a man. A wounded man who needed help. He's the enemy. The war is almost over, Sarah. Everyone knows it. At some point, the killing has to stop. At some point, we have to remember we're all human." Sarah stared at her sister as if seeing a stranger. "You love him. It wasn't a question." "My God, Kate, you love him." Kate opened her mouth to deny it, but the words wouldn't come. Because it was true. Impossibly, inconveniently, dangerously true. "Sarah, please, don't tell anyone, please." Her sister looked between Kate and James, something warring in her expression. Finally, she shook her head. "I won't tell. But Kate, this can't continue. When he's well enough, he needs to leave. For both your sakes." Sarah left, and Kate sank down beside James, her hands trembling. "She's right," James said quietly. "I've put you in enough danger. When I'm strong enough to travel, I should go." "Go where?" Kate's voice was bitter. "The war might be ending, but the hate won't end with it. You'll be killed if Confederate soldiers find you. And I can't." She couldn't finish the sentence, but James understood. "Come with me." Kate's head snapped up. "What?" "Come with me. North, to Maine, where we can start over, where no one knows us, where we're just Kate and James, not Confederate and Union." "That's impossible. My family is here. My father needs me. I can't just—" "Kate," he took both her hands in his. "I know what I'm asking. I know it's crazy. But this war has taught me that life is short, that tomorrow isn't promised. I love you. I don't know how it happened, but I do. And if there's any chance, Any chance at all, I want to take it." Kate felt tears streaming down her face. "They'll call me a traitor." "I know. My father will never forgive me. Maybe not at first. The whole town will hate me. Let them." "James, You don't have to answer now. Just think about it, please." But before Kate could respond, they heard voices outside. Angry voices. The barn door burst open, and Colonel Hayes entered with 3 soldiers, their rifles raised. "Step away from the prisoner, Miss Morrison." Kate's blood turned to ice. "Colonel Hayes, I can explain. You've been seen, Miss Morrison, coming to this barn, spending hours with the enemy. At first, we thought you were simply following your father's orders, but it's become clear there's something more." His eyes were hard, unforgiving. "You've betrayed your people, consorted with the enemy. That's treason." "She saved my life." James tried to stand, was immediately forced back by a rifle barrel. "She's guilty of nothing but compassion." "Compassion for a Yankee? That's guilt enough." "Please," Kate's voice broke, "don't hurt him. Whatever punishment there is, I'll take it. Just don't hurt him." Colonel Hayes studied her for a long moment. "You really do love him." There was something like pity in his voice. "You fool." He turned to his soldiers. "Take the prisoner. He'll be transported to the POW camp at Danville. Miss Morrison, you're to be confined to your home until we decide what to do with you." "No." Kate lunged forward as they grabbed James. "Please, he's not well enough. His wound." James looked back at her as they dragged him away, his eyes desperate. "Kate, I love you. Remember that. Whatever happens, I love you." "James." But he was gone, pulled into the night, and Kate collapsed, Sarah catching her before she hit the ground. The next days were a nightmare. Kate was indeed confined to her home, guards posted outside. Her father visited, his face carved from stone. "Did you love him?" Kate couldn't lie to her father. "Yes." He closed his eyes as if in pain. "Kate, my dear girl, what have you done?" "I fell in love, father." "Is that such a crime?" "In war? Yes, it is." But his voice was gentle, and when he left, he squeezed her hand. "I'll see what I can do to minimize the damage." It was Sarah who brought news, slipping past the guards one night. "The war is over. Lee surrendered at Appomattox. It's truly over." Kate felt nothing, no relief, no joy. The war ending meant nothing if James was gone. And James? Captain Sullivan. Sarah hesitated. "The prisoners are being released, slowly. He's alive, Kate. He was transported north last week." Alive. He was alive. But gone. Forever out of reach. Kate spent the next weeks in a haze. The guards were removed as the South fell into chaos, trying to reorganize, to rebuild from the ashes. Kate returned to work at the hospital, now treating the wounded and sick from both sides as Union forces occupied the area. She moved through her days like a ghost, performing tasks mechanically, speaking when necessary, but feeling nothing. Until one evening in May, when spring was finally truly arriving and dogwood flowers bloomed white as snow. Kate was walking home from the hospital when she saw a figure standing by the old oak tree at the edge of their property. A man in civilian clothes, leaning heavily on a cane, his dark hair longer than before, but still unmistakable. Kate's heart stopped. "James?" He turned, and even in the fading light, she could see his smile. "Hello, Kate." She ran in a way that was completely improper, completely scandalous, completely right. She threw herself into his arms, felt them close around her, solid and real and here. "You came back. You came back." "I told you I loved you. Did you think I was lying?" She pulled back just enough to see his face, to touch it, to make sure he was real. "But how? Why?" "The war is over, Kate, really over. And I realized, What's the point of surviving a war if I don't fight for what matters? For who matters? He took her hand, knelt with difficulty, his wounded side clearly still paining him. I have nothing to offer you. My farm in Maine is probably in ruins. I have no money, no prospects, but I have love, Kate, so much love. And if you'll have me, if you'll take the risk, I promise to spend every day of my life making you happy. Kate sank to her knees beside him, laughing and crying at once. You fool! You beautiful, stubborn fool! Is that a guess? Yes, 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 yes. He kissed her then, there in the fading light, with the dogwood flowers falling around them like snow. And in that moment, Kate understood something profound. Love doesn't erase the past. It doesn't make the pain disappear or the losses less real. But it offers something precious. It offers hope that tomorrow can be different from yesterday. That healing is possible. That even after the darkest war, spring can come again. 3 years later, Kate stood on the porch of their small farmhouse in Maine, watching James work in the field with their young son perched on his shoulders. Thomas James Sullivan, named for the men they had both lost, laughed as his father pointed out different birds. Her father had eventually forgiven her, though it took time. He visited once a year, and Kate saw him softening toward James, seeing what she saw, a good man, a kind man, someone who made his daughter happy. Sarah wrote often, her letters full of news from Virginia, of rebuilding, of slowly trying to heal a broken land. The South was changing, slowly, painfully, but changing. And Kate, watching her husband and son in the golden afternoon light, felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. The war had taken so much from both of them. But it had also, in the strangest way, given them to each other. Two people who should have been enemies, who became something far more precious. Sometimes Kate still dreamed of the barn, of those nights sitting vigil beside a wounded soldier who was supposed to be her enemy. And she wondered at the mysterious ways life works. How the very thing that seems like it will destroy us can become the thing that saves us. How love can bloom in the most unlikely soil. How even in the darkest times, the human heart insists on finding light. James came to the porch, setting their son down to run after the chickens, and wrapped his arms around Kate from behind. What are you thinking about? About how impossible this all is, how we should never have worked. And yet we do. And yet we do. He kissed her temple, and Kate leaned back against him, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong. The war was over. The healing would take generations. But here, in this small corner of the world, two people who had been enemies had chosen love. And that, Kate thought, was its own kind of victory. The most important kind. And so ends our story. If it touched your heart, please leave a like and subscribe for more tales from the past. Rate this story from 0 to 10 in the comments and tell me, where are you listening from? Until next time.